Okay, this is 8th grade technology, and we are covering communication systems. Communication systems, guys, what is the difference between communication, which you guys know is most of your, we call it English, and communication technology? Well, the difference between the two is when you're talking face-to-face, you're using communication, but no technology is involved. So the difference is using the technology to communicate. So there's a definition. It's communication technology to transfer messages amongst people or machines through the use of technology. So if you think about it, how do you communicate? You take a device and you use it in the form of communication. So let's think of a cell phone. You call people, you text, think about the internet, email, etc. There's tons of ways that you can go through and work with this scenario. Okay, we've been talking about the systems model. The systems model, we've been going through the closed loop system and so on. The open loop system, we have the input, output, we have the process and feedback. So same thing. We still have the input, processes, output, feedback with receiving and sending messages. Okay, it's the same process. We have to have input, people coming in to the scenario. We have resources. You remember there's 7 resources. Then we process the data that you're sending. Then someone receives it. That's the main output. And feedback is, did it go through? Or did it get hung up in the middle, you lost reception, etc.? That is also feedback. Okay, things we got to think about when we make a message. Who are you designing it for? Big deal. I mean, if you're designing it for...
Reagan?
Okay, so if you're designing it for a kindergarten class, you're going to design it different than if you're designing it for a bunch of older kids or even adults. The language that you're going to use will be a little different. The medium use, is it going to be paper that you're printing onto? Is it going to be the internet that you come across? Web, radio, television. All these things are big important factors because your message, the way we come across with the message will be different depending on what you're going to use. The nature, is it going to be informative? Are we going to persuade someone to do something? Or is it just there for entertainment? And the last, make sure the language is appropriate per group that you're going to. Again, your language will change if you're talking to a bunch of kindergartners or first graders than if you were talking to high school kids with your message. So very important factors that we need to discuss and make sure that we understand, because when you start developing it, you want people to understand the message that's coming across. Okay, we grouped some communication systems into some categories, and we're going to use these categories. Photographic communication, basically using pictures to communicate your message. Printed graphics is anything that's printed, your t-shirts, posters, banners, logos, etc. Anything that is a physical printed graphic to use communication. You go down to Walmart, everything is packaged. So packaging would come into this category. Computer internet, how do we use websites and computers and the internet world to communicate our message? Okay, so we'll talk about that a little bit. And the last group is telecommunication, that is our television and our radios. Tele means long distance communication. So telecommunication is long distance, something over long distance, which goes back to our radio and our television. Okay, why do we need different modes and new modes? And when we talk about modes is how do we get, we want new ways to communicate. And why is that important? Well, we keep growing, and our world keeps beginning to be more complex. There's more people, and we need to come up with different ways to communicate. We used to write papers and send in the mail, and that worked great, except it took weeks to get your message across. Then with the cell phone brought a lot. We're now able to communicate wherever we are. Now with the world of the internet, it's changing the whole game of the way people talk to each other. In the next 5 to 10 years, you're going to see tons of different ways that we're going to communicate to one another. And I really don't know what it's going to look like. I mean, it's changed drastically in the past 10 years of how people talk to one another. Okay, and now we don't even talk. We now push buttons and we read, basically writing a message and then sending it via text message. Very, very simple way to communicate. So we continue to look at the ways we communicate, and hopefully we get it right and make it all good for everybody. Okay, over time, we used to communicate just biologically, talking to each other, and then finally, if you guys realize, it's gone from talking to printed, and now based off electric signals, which means the internet. So this slide just kind of brings us back to where we understand it has made progress. Okay, we've progressed slowly, and I know your lifetime you've always had a cell phone, but it probably didn't always have the internet hooked to it. So you might have seen a little bit of a change from just having regular cell phones with texting abilities to now being able to surf the entire web. Before that, when I was in high school, there was one internet connection to a computer, and you had to kind of know what you're looking for on the internet, which we didn't use the internet to research like we do today. So it has progressed completely. In the past 15 years, it's changed so much that I'm excited for the next 15 years. Okay, when we can communicate different things. We can talk to machines. Okay, we tell machines what to do. And here's just some examples. We turn a timer on to turn on a lamp. Program the computer by typing onto the computer, and then the computer does what you tell it to. Playing video games. When you play video games, you are telling the game system what to do. So that's just a simple ways that you talk to a person or a machine. There's plenty other ways that you communicate to a machine, like the thermostat on your house to keep your house warm. You move it up and down, and then it tells the machine what to do. How does a machine send signals to a person? Well, a teapot tells you the water's done, it's boiling. The alarm tells you to wake up, or in this case I wrote down that it protects you from your home, like someone's broke in. So it's communicating a message to you. A smoke signal says, hey, there's a fire, tells you to get out. These are just simple ways machines are talking to you. Again, a form of communication. And then machine to machine, computer gives the printer instructions to tell it to print. And computers are attached to sensors to control the flow of factory materials. If you guys remember back from your manufacturing project with the little tic-tac-toe boxes, we could have easily automated a lot of that to where a machine knew once one machine was done, it was its time to go. And we could have put on a little assembly and all automated. And machines have to talk to machines to get that to work properly. Okay. With all this comes impacts in the world. We have political impacts. We know everything that's going on at any given time in politics, good or bad. I don't know exact answer for that, but we can go all the pros and the cons. But we know everything that's going on with the President of the United States or any other politician just because of the way communications have changed. Social. Guys, you know there's a lot of social media out there. We interact socially on the internet due to this. So there's a big impact with this problem. Culture. Our whole culture has changed. Okay, we do not have the thing called personal privacy anymore. Everybody says, hey, I get on my personal privacy. You don't have that anymore. With the internet, cell phones, and then it's based on the ethics of people, you've lost it. Somebody can be behind you, take a picture of you, put it on the internet, and you had no way to say, hey, I don't want that. You couldn't stop them. So it goes down to ethics. How morally correct is the person? Are they got good morals? Are they there to hurt people? And that's where cyberbullying and all that comes into play. Our culture has changed dramatically because of the way we communicate. Economical. There's a lot of changes. I mean, everything's evolved around the internet, guys. It's not going to change. It is very, very powerful. The way we communicate has changed everything. We can sell online. We can have a web page that has all our things for sale. We can stay at home and completely order everything we want online. So it is kind of good for the economy that we don't have to waste gas and drive everywhere to get the stuff that we want. We can just shop online. And the last one I'm talking about is environmental. It's pros and cons. I mean, we've got some good things happening with our communication. We can communicate our environmental problems a lot better, and people can reach out and discuss that. I'm going to stop here on part 1. We'll have part 2 on the next time, and thanks for listening.